team has band together to fight Spyro and his head-butting, sheep-burning ways. This isn't just a video game. It's a Spyrocracy.
$129?
Stay away from Spyro! No!
See ya. PlayStation.
In the early days of video games, every publisher sought to carve out a lasting presence in the burgeoning industry. While numerous companies achieved recognition for creating some of the greatest video games of all time, the truest measure of a publisher's impact lay in their iconic mascots. These beloved characters not only personified the corporation, but also etched themselves into the minds of players. Mascots served as the embodiment of a company's vision and charisma, acting as powerful messengers that conveyed a distinct message about the brand. During the golden age of arcades, Pac-Man symbolized Namco's influence, while Babylon became the enduring face of Taito. Similarly, Mario rose to prominence as the beloved representative of Nintendo during its triumphant era with the Nintendo Entertainment System. With the passage of time, a plethora of captivating mascots emerged, each vying for attention in the competitive landscape of the gaming industry. Sonic, a lightning-fast blue hedgehog, ascended from Sega's headquarters, standing tall as a worthy rival to Nintendo's iconic plumber. Mario, meanwhile, Capcom proudly showcased Captain Commando and Mega Man as their esteemed mascots, embodying the company's spirit of heroism and innovation. Konami, on the other hand, found its representative in the lovable Bomberman, who embarked on numerous adventures, cementing his status as the face of the company on various occasions. Things will go out of hand during the late days of the 4th generation up to the 7th generation of consoles, as several companies established their own unique mascot. By the time companies began creating their own representative character, Nintendo has already assembled an army of mascots that line up to represent the company's imaginative prowess. Meanwhile, for Sony, the launch of the PlayStation back in 1994 was their defining moment, serving as their ticket to showcase to the world what they were truly capable of achieving. Looking back, Sony indeed managed to gather a modest yet notable lineup of mascots, each representing a distinct generation of their gaming consoles. However, the question arises, where are these mascots now, and are they still remembered?
Do you really remember me?
To unravel this captivating tale, I will embark on an in-depth exploration, delving into several chapters that shed light on their legacy, enduring popularity, and their current situation.
I'd like to talk to you about a menace, threatening humanity. It's happening right here, in our very homes, and corrupting the lives of our loved ones. Yes, friends, I'm talking about this. It may look like a harmless bagel toaster, but inside is a deadly donut.
If we had to go all the way back to the roots, Sony's first mascot was a marketing character created by the PlayStation North American department. The origins of this mascot were not all sweets and flowers, as it stemmed from strong opposition to the PlayStation brand name from Sony Computer Entertainment's American subsidiary at the time. Sony Computer Entertainment of America was well aware of the disappointed reaction of the young audience to the PlayStation brand name. Therefore, they attempted to change the name to PSX rather than their PlayStation. The title PSX was used in various early trade promotions, and it was in one of these that the purple cube-shaped Polygon Man first appeared, in an ad headed, "It's more powerful than God." A marketing plan was devised by the North American department to appeal to both the youth and the senior audience at the time. Polygon Man worked as the messenger or representative speaking to the public through different kinds of advertisements. To achieve this goal, the North American department was inspired by Sega's successful anarchic pirate TV campaigns in the UK in the early 90s to design ads that focused on three important elements: entertaining, captivating, and allowing the audience to remember those ad campaigns. Because that's how Sega defeated Nintendo in the United Kingdom, through a series of advertisements that included humor, seriousness, and pure entertainment. The advertisements rendered the spectator stunned, leaving them with no choice but to hurry up to the nearest store to purchase the games and the console. When everything seemed to sail smoothly, as soon as Ken Kutaragi walked onto the E3 booth in 1995, at the time, all attempts to make the Polygon Man the messiah of the North American department were shut down.
Headshot.
Consequently, Polygon's main existence was abruptly brought to an end. As a result, Sony did not yet have its own mascot until 1996.
クイズチャンピオン。さあ、まずはおなじみプラスさんの登場です。そして大人気パラッパさんです。いやー、2人とも乗っています。さあ、突然ですがそこで問題です。私は誰でしょう？全然違います。私、プレステマンです。
With the rise of 3D platformers such as Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie and Rayman 2, Sony needed a 3D platformer under their belt, or to be more specific, their own representative mascot as every major video game company at the time. On September 9, 1996, Naughty Dog in collaboration with Universal Interactive and Sony Computer Entertainment made the first official mascot of PlayStation, a cartoonish, orange fox-like animal named Crash. While Sony initially only wanted to have their own mascot, the marketing department took that to a whole new level by subtly mentioning Crash as the Mario Killer in several advertisements. Among them is this one.
Hey, plumber boy, mustache man, your worst nightmare has arrived.
Pack up your stuff. I got a little surprise for you here. Check it out. What do you think about that? We got real-time, 3D, lush organic environments. How's that make you feel, buddy? Feel a little like your days are numbered?
I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
You're hurting my elbow.
Is that Italian?
No, Bandicoot is an Australian name.
With its successful launch, Crash Bandicoot emerged as a colossal hit, garnering immense acclaim from both commercial and critical perspectives. This triumph led to the creation of numerous sequels in the upcoming years. As a result, Sony finally secured the representative mascot and everything appeared to proceed seamlessly. Sony's pursuit of mascots didn't end with Crash Bandicoot alone. Another endearing character joined the lineup, often teaming up with Crash in various instances, including advertisements in Japan. This mascot was none other than Parappa the Rapper, an adorable puppet-themed 2-dimensional anthropomorphic dog with a wholesome personality and a penchant for hip-hop music. Parappa the Rapper, much like Crash Bandicoot, enjoyed tremendous sales and success during its initial release back in 1996. However, the following sequel hasn't managed to capture the same magic as its predecessor. As a result, the game ceased to be profitable and was no longer considered financially viable. Continuing with Sony's mascots Blitz, Spyro the Dragon emerged from the minds of Insomnia Games on September 10, 1998. Following in the footsteps of the previously mentioned mascots, Spyro also achieved resounding success both commercially and critically during its initial release. In addition to the mentioned mascots, it's important to highlight the Escape and the Toro Inoue franchise, which made an appearance a few months prior to the launch of the PlayStation 2. Interestingly, Escape and Toro Inoue were the only intellectual properties that Sony actually owned among these mascots. And unfortunately, they weren't as popular as Spyro and Crash were in the West. Eventually, after a few years, Crash would become the property of Activision, while Spyro remained under the ownership of Universal Interactive, who initially held the rights until it was sold to Activision on a silver plate in 2008 after acquiring Vivendi Games. As for Parappa the Rapper, Sony unfortunately did not show interest in retaining ownership of the game. As a result, Sony was left with only 2 mascots after formerly having 6 platform representatives. However, A significant turning point occurred during the launch of the PlayStation 2, as Sony made a series of acquisitions that enabled them to start producing competitive IPs.
You are still here?
Yeah, we thought we'd hang out, catch some rays.
This isn't a game.
Following their acquisition of Naughty Dog in 2001, Sony introduced a formidable response to their rivals with Jak and Daxter. Developed by the creative minds behind the Crash Bandicoot franchise, Jak and Daxter emerged as an original action-adventure platformer. The first installment embodied the essence of 3D platformers featuring adventure, item collection, immersive natural environments, and memorable soundtracks. While subsequent sequels deviated slightly from the original approach, they still managed to weather the challenging era when 3D platformers were considered unprofitable. In the following year, Sony made a significant impact by introducing 3 major mascots on their platform, a sequel to Up Escape, Ratchet & Clank, and Sly Cooper, 3 incredible mascots in a single year. Ratchet & Clank, for example, skillfully blended third-person shooting and platforming, creating a unique gameplay experience that didn't favor one genre over the other, but rather harmoniously combined them. The result was a strong and compelling IP for Sony. On the other hand, Sly Cooper centered around the thrilling escapades of Sly and his band of mischievous thieves, embarking on daring heists around the world while eluding the pursuit of Inspector Carmelita. During a particular period in history, it seemed as though Sony had an answer to every major competitor in the gaming industry. When it came to Super Mario, Sony showcased their formidable lineup of Jak, Ratchet, and Sly as worthy counterparts. In response to Devil May Cry, Sony had their own epic action game series, God of War. Silent Hill found its counterpart in the chilling horror game Siren. For fans of Call of Duty, Sony offered the intense first-person shooter experience of Killzone. Ridge Racer had a counterpart in the renowned racing simulator Gran Turismo. And even Mario Kart had its equivalent in Sony's offering with Jak X. Unfortunately, despite their impressive visuals and gameplay, not all of these games were able to sustain themselves for an extended period of time. For instance, the Jak series came to a close during the PlayStation 2 and the PSP era, with no new installments released thereafter. Similarly, Sly Cooper has not seen a new game since the PlayStation 3. However, Ratchet & Clank managed to persist and thrive, continuing its journey across 3 generations, with new titles released along the way. Up Escape, on the other hand, struggled to find a presence in the oversaturated market after the 3rd installment, and it didn't help that the franchise's most recent addition, PlayStation Move Up Escape, received unfavorable reviews. Since then, the series hasn't seen a new installment ever since. Meanwhile, Toro Inoue, Sony's official mascot in Japan, was thriving, but only in Japan, with several games being released on various PlayStation platforms and cameo appearances in several titles, as well as being launched exclusively for mobile devices. But how did Sony deal with the situation? Did they make any attempts, or did they simply abandon these games? The next chapter answers that.
Autopilot engaged.
Whoa! Hang on, Clank!
Hyperspace boosters online. Engaging cryosleep.
Cryosleep? No. There's no way I'm gonna...
It is fortunate cryosleep does not work on robots.
During the peak of the PlayStation 3 era, there was a popular trend of reviving multiple beloved classics by remastering them in HD collections. The aim was to familiarize the newer generation with these iconic titles by updating their visuals and presenting them in a modernized format. This approach allowed players to rediscover and appreciate these timeless games with enhanced graphics and, in some cases, additional features such as achievements. Eidos Interactive, for example, remastered well-known games like Hitman and Tomb Raider trilogy. Ubisoft also joined in, using HD collections as a route to introduce newcomers to the Splinter Cell series and Prince of Persia. On the other hand, several publishers like Bandai Namco, Sega, Capcom and others were also involved in revitalizing their IPs. Sony, being a key player in the gaming industry, did not miss out on this trend either. They capitalized on the occasion by remastering some of their own mascot titles such as Jak and Daxter, Sly Cooper and Ratchet & Clank. While this attempt to attract newcomers and cater to the nostalgia factor of the previous fanbase, a question lingers: did the release of HD collections effectively contribute to the popularity of these titles? Yes and no. Without a doubt, the release of HD collections successfully introduced newcomers to these games while also capitalizing on the nostalgia of the existing fanbase, and the games sold fairly well. However, it's important to note that the popularity of these remastered titles didn't necessarily guarantee the development of potential sequels or a significant surge in popularity. Unfortunately, the harsh reality was that 3D platformers, even during the PS3 era, weren't profitable. But Sony did not stop here. They still had one last trump card under their sleeve to introduce.
Rated T for teen.
Bagel, bagel, oh bagel. Nathan?
Do you, want to talk about it?
I'd rather not.
We got beaten by a burlap sack. It happened.
I just feel like for once I really let my guard down and you just steamrolled me.
Take it to HR, old man.
I knew you didn't care.
Last round was great.
You a Naruto?
The thing she's into. That heavenly sword is poorly named.
In honor of the legacy that began in 1994, Sony released a game titled PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, drawing inspiration from the Super Smash Bros. Franchise. However, PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale did not bring any significant features or elements that were not already present in the Super Smash Bros. Series. Unlike the Super Smash Bros. Series that focuses on including only Nintendo's exclusives, PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale's inclusion of characters that have no connection to PlayStation's exclusives, like Dante from the DMC reboot and Raiden from Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, raised questions as why Sony did this. Maybe Sony wasn't too confident that characters like Dart from The Legend of Dragoon, Echo, Gabriel Logan from Siphon Filter, or even Just Rook from Rogue Galaxy will succeed at piquing people's interest. I believe it would have been a much better choice from having guest characters that have no connection with Sony's lineup of mascots. That way, you could introduce a lot of players to lesser known mascots from the PS brand. While PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale enjoyed a relatively strong debut in its initial weeks, it struggled later on and ultimately fell short of Sony's sales expectations. Hence, probably there will be no follow-up anytime soon. After Sony's unlucky attempt to achieve one of its goals, a new concept emerged. Just like the trend of remastering classics in HD for the PS3 audience, playing PS2 games on the PS4 became a popular trend. The latter provided access to a wide range of hits and hidden gems from the bygone era of the PS2. Titles like Up Escape 2, Siren, Parappa the Rapper 2, Okage Shadow King, Primal, and many others became accessible to players who may have missed out on these games during their original release. As to whether this concept has proven to be a success or not remains a mystery. But one thing is certain, the PS2 to PS4 Classics program didn't bring any dead mascot from the dead. What I mean by that is that it didn't guarantee any sort of follow-up to any of your favorite mascots. Sony has continuously shown a strong commitment to their intellectual properties, much like other major publishers in the industry. With the launch of the PS4, Sony has adopted a new strategy, likely influenced by Capcom's successful wave of remakes. In 2018, Sony surprised the gaming community by releasing a remake of one of their most beloved IPs of all time, Shadow of the Colossus. This remake was built entirely from the ground up for the PS4 audience, but what made it fascinating was its ability to enhance the original game without altering its core essence. This approach resonated well with players, and the success of the Shadow of the Colossus revamp demonstrated the demand for high-quality remakes. Following up, Sony continued its remake streak with the release of the Medieval remake a year later. Once again, this remake proved to be a hit, capturing the nostalgia of fans while updating the game for modern audiences. This shows that Sony has the potential to emulate Capcom's strategy and continue producing remakes that cater to the desires of players. The overwhelming success of the recent Demon's Souls remake serves as a compelling example of the world's demand for high-quality remakes. The game not only achieved critical acclaim but also resonated strongly with the Souls-like community. The commercial performance of the Demon's Souls remake was influential in Sony's decision to acquire Bluepoint Games, and who knows, perhaps Sony will one day shock everyone with a Killzone remake, Siphon Filter, or why not make a return to Jak and Daxter, but this time in HD. Only time can tell, but one thing is certain: if Crash Bandicoot and Spyro remakes have proven to have performed well both commercially and critically, there's no way a remake of any of Sony's popular mascots wouldn't be a hit.
What have I got?
As we enter the PS5 era, Sony's current roster of mascots includes Astro and Ratchet. However, it is a missed opportunity for Sony, considering the wealth of incredible IPs they possess. There are a lot of ideas they can work with in today's age, but we have yet to see Sony doing anything with these dead mascots. Unlike Nintendo, Sony does the bare minimum of remembering these classics through yearly anniversaries or remastering the games from time to time whenever they feel like it. Sony may have made several attempts in the past as we explore through the video, but the question that arises is this: if the time comes for these IPs to be revived, who will be entrusted with doing them justice? Will it be Bluepoint Games? Or an unheard of third-party developer? Only time will tell, but in all honesty, it'll be nice to see a dead mascot being revived one way or another. Which one do you want to see in the future? Let me know. That's it for the video.
See you. Bye bye.